Look, the old ones were failures. I don't think anyone's disputing that. They screwed up royally and got their collective asses kicked by chaos, but that doesn't mean their children have to be. Just because your dad's a bum and went out to buy cigarettes 10,000 years ago doesn't mean you have to follow in his footsteps. And with that in mind, the dinosaurs of Lustria are rousing from their slumber, and their rage is about to break. They smell knife ears. The dreaded Druki are invading, and the only way to kick them off their lawn is yet another Subcommanders 3v3 with Mazdamundi, Tehenhauin, and TikTaq'To leading their forces into battle against the hags of Ganeth, Malekith and his malicious Black Guard, and Mama Morathi on her Dark Pegasus Sulafet. In her mind, incest equals wincest. Let's see if a certain thick toe to the stars can disabuse her of that notion. It's the Lizardmen and the Dark Elves in the Cradle of Life, where the Old Ones first began forging flesh. Let us begin. So for the children of the Old Ones, Alan is commanding the Lizardmen Infantry, 5 Temple Guard, 2 Kroxigors, Saurus Warriors, and Mazdamundi himself atop that majestic Triceratops Tlaqua. Powerful spellcasting, super tanky, Bubble of Nope ward saves, and Bound Spell Banishment. He is a scary beast, but hidden in the mangroves over on the east side, we've already got some Vanguard shenanigans at the start of the match. Dark Riders deployed literally on top of Chameleon Skinks. Probably not going to work out too well for the reptiles. We'll check back on this in a couple of minutes, but I have a feeling Chameleons aren't going to enjoy that too much. Over on the other side of the battlefield, on the right flank of Mazdamundi, hidden in the trees in the middle of the map, are the Horned Ones of Tlaqua. Premier heavy cav with one of the best stat lines in Mortal Empires. Heavyweight brawlers through and through. They're hidden in the trees right now, waiting for the perfect moment to strike alongside the Cult of Sotek, led by Scribe Untitled. Tehenhauin leading the way, Salamanders, Red Crested Skinks, an Ark of Sotek Basiladon, and 2 Engine of the Gods with that lore of Amber. Grr, the Wind of Beasts, nice and thematic army in the center of the map. And on Overwatch, you had to know it was going to be me. His campaign might be done and dusted, but TikTaq'To still has some fight left in him. It's an entire army of Ripperdactyls, Pterodons, and cavalry as I command the fast movers of the Southlands. Telocodon Hunters, tons of AP. I'm going to be the hammer that can hopefully outflank and destroy the rear guard before swooping in for that coup de grace. And of course, that plus 18 armor and plus 9 melee defense buff for all flyers from the Mask of Heavens should help tremendously in getting the most out of those Ripperdactyls. Pterodons Vanguard deployed in the back of the map behind the Dark Elves Alliance, and for the Dark Elves themselves, Lol Kittens commands Malekith and a Naggarond themed army with Blackguard, Cold One Knights, and Dread Knights. Ikit Claw controls Morathi and the Cult of Pleasure with ranged units and monsters, including 2 Charybdis and 2 Manticores, and Sir Laura commands the forces of Ganeth and Hag Queen Hellebron, an infantry corps with Executioners, Witch Elves, and 2 Cauldrons of Blood. So Dark Elves have a very eclectic mix and a very balanced force, honestly. Seraphon on Overwatch, going to be very powerful in the skies, as is Morathi, but they're going to be outnumbered up there because of all those Ripperdactyls and Pterodons. They will have to be careful, but they do have that Dark Shard support, which should help out a lot if things start going a little bit south. Bolt Throwers might be able to snipe out some dinos on the way in. And over on the right flank, more Dark Shards, some Sisters of Slaughter, and the Cold One Dread Knight Regiment of Renown. So powerful heavy cavalry on the field for the Dark Elves here. They will be looking to push that advantage if they can, but they don't have any idea the Horned Ones are waiting for them. See how that goes. But as the battle starts, Chameleon Skinks caught out in a horrible position. That's super unlucky, honestly. Start the game in that mangrove right where a bunch of Dark Riders were already waiting for you. That's why sometimes, especially against stuff like the Beastmen, but sometimes the Dark Elves as well, you want to be wary of where you put your Vanguard troops, and you might not even want to use that at all, because stuff like that can happen, and you just lose a unit for free. Horned Ones are going to be kept in reserve, but already the Cult of Sotek and the Ripperdactyls are pushing their advantage on the flank, trying to overwhelm that left side, scout out whatever's in the trees, and move in to strike at those bolt throwers and the back of the cavalry. If they can snipe those out early, get rid of the mobility advantage for the Dark Elves, then it could be a huge win for the Lizardmen here. But right up the center, Alan and the infantry with Zlak, Mazdamundi, and those Kroxigors is going right at it. And this could be a little bit dangerous. The Dark Elves have more of a unified, united front, and the Dark Shards with all their AP are tailor-made for shredding through all these Kroxigors. through Stegodons, through Engine of the Gods, and the bolt throwers are already firing in and starting to make their presence felt. So the Cult of Sotek and Tlaqua, with all those Ripperdactyls and Pterodons, going to have to move in. Cold One Knights trying to shoot the gap here up the center and get into the back line for some juicy strikes at those Stegodons. And they are going to try to shoot the gap here. It's a good idea, except Horned Ones are waiting on the wings. And that could be disastrous for the Cold One Cavalry as this battle begins. You can see they're trying to get into that open space to surround that Engine of the Gods. But those Horned Ones are right there. And in a 1v1 fight, Horned Ones will absolutely dominate Cold One Knights. And that's not to say anything of the Ancient Salamanders and Salamander Hunting Pack that are already firing into their flank and destroying one of those Cold One regiments. The Ripperdactyls are waiting to go in. They're getting around the flank at the moment. And Mazdamundi already up the middle. Bubble of Nope has not gone down quite yet. The Stegodon into the Dread Spears. And we've got the Horned Ones making their strike now into the flank of those Dark Elf Cavalry. And the Heavy Cav is just going to get ripped apart. Horned Ones are just a echelon or two above what the Dark Elves can field. Even Dread Knights would have a rough go of it in that kind of situation. Murder Party in the middle, surrounding Mazdamundi, Bolt Throwers, and Dark Shards, ripping Zlak apart. And he got super aggressive right at the start of this match. And that's probably not the best way to use him. I think Alan probably already realized that at this point in the battle, seeing his HP just plummet. That's a lot of Dark Shards and a lot of AP going his way with Hellebron right there. And off the start of the match, Mazdamundi has shattered. Not ideal. That is 3,000 gold worth of a Lord that's just gone. And that's what can happen in a 3v3 like this one. With that kind of focus fire, absolute brutality. But the Temple Guard, Star Chamber Guardians have surrounded the Cold One Dread Knights, Knights of the Ebon Claw, and Cold One Knights caught up in their grasp, and those halberds will carve apart even the most heavily armored Raptors. And look at that unit just get deleted from the game. So huge mistakes actually on both sides already, kind of going to cancel each other out. Big loss for the Dark Elves to lose all of that cavalry. Ripperdactyls into the flank here, already on top of the Slaaneish's Harvesters, controlled by Malekith and cursed with hollowness by Slaanesh, the Dark Prince himself. More Ripperdactyls hunting after those repeater crossbow Dark Riders that are flying in the skies, and Morathi will look to support them, but they're on the hunt now. TikTaq'To, this is where he and his flyers thrive, kind of hunting down all the flyers, getting into the back lines, destroying range units, and then swooping in for that final killing blow. Big breath attack coming in from Seraphon. Malekith letting it rip, and corrosive acid will melt apart the Temple Guard formation. A beautiful breath attack, but the cavalry, the Horned Ones, have just shredded the Dark Elf Heavy Cav. I mean, just a brutal engagement, and already the Dark Elves have lost the majority of their mobility. Look at the carnage those Star Chamber Guardians have left in their wake. 2 entire units of Cav just dead from those halberds. And they've already paid for themselves. It's a 1,500 gold unit that has already paid for itself easily. They'll charge into melee. Now, behind here, Pterodon Riders and the Ripperdactyls, they have seen their opportunity into the Bolt Throwers. Unfortunately, a little bit too late to save Zlak on Mazdamundi, but at least they'll be able to take them out and prevent them from taking out some more of those Engine of the Gods. Witch Elves and the Cult of Cain moving forward. Death Knight looking strong over here. Pit of Shades going down on top of some of those Red Crested Skinks. Combined beautifully with Chill Wind to prevent them from escaping. And Engine of the Gods. Tehenhauin, the Prophet of Sotek, will unleash an orbital bombardment from on high. Exterminatus on Lustria, ripping through those Dread Spears, Blackguard, and Witch Elves. And an Ancient Salamander gonna start snacking on one of those Brides of Cain. Spin them out, fire in her wake, and she'll get tossed aside and be left for dead. A nice orbital bombardment coming in. Multiple of them, actually. Got a Doom Bolt whizzing right by TikTaq'To's head. And the Ripperdactyls have had a fantastic time so far, staying away from Malekith, but there is an opportunity because Seraphon is getting very far up. TikTaq'To and the Colossadon Hunters with those Ripperdactyls notice it, and they are all going to conglomerate around the Dark Lord himself. Can they bring down Sauron and finish off Darth Vader in the middle of that aerial engagement? Manticores are not supporting him, so it could be a really big blow to the Dark Elves if Malekith goes down. Can TikTaq'To and those Ripperdactyls do it? The Cold One Cavalry has made it all the way around behind the enemy formation. Spirit Leech going down on the front ranks, Paco Pot cohort, and the Saurus Cav getting in there now, and they're going to run right over the top of those Dark Shards. But TikTaq'To has gotten beaten to hell by Seraphon. Even with all that Ripper support, TikTaq'To cannot take on Malekith in that kind of fight, I guess. And it looks like both lords will retreat from the battlefield. TikTaq'To might be able to come back. The repeater crossbows and those bolt throwers are firing into him, and only a couple more shots will be enough to kill him off. But Malekith is shattered, so again, both lords going down, and already 3 or 4 of the lords in this battlefield have died. So huge blows to both sides. Looks like Malekith plummets from the skies, and Seraphon shall no longer terrorize the skies. Colossadon Hunters so good at that. Get them a full surround off on a Black Dragon or a Manticore. Yeah, they're gonna rip them up. But these Cold One Riders have been tied down by that Madness of Cain, the Brides of Cain. And those Dread Spears will probably be enough to finish off the Saurus Cav, which are not great in a prolonged 1v1 fight. Horned ones are much better at that. Reprodactyls finished off the Black Dragon, and now they're on the hunt. If they can catch out Morathi next, they could really turn this battle in the Lizardmen's favor. Saw a Pit of Shades in the background on top of the Horned ones, and the Flyers have an avenue to go right into the Dark Elves' back, finish off all these range units, and get rid of those bolt throwers and the Dark Shards for good. There is a Charybdis hanging out back there, but it's at half HP, and honestly, it's not great at shutting down Flyers unless it gets right on top of them. Poison might be able to slow them, but in that kind of group, it's going to be very hard to do enough damage to finish them all off, and so they're going to quickly charge into the Dark Shards, rout them, and escape. But it looks like Colossadon Hunters might have routed from the Terror at the same time. Their Toad Rage will not be able to get activated this battle, but Swoop and the Pteranodon Riders coming in from the side. Pawok Sentinels, no drop rocks, but melee should be more than enough to finish them off. Engine of the Gods, another orbital bombardment, carving right through those Black Guard, but it looks like Lowell Kittens will notice it, move them forward, and dodge a lot of that spell as it slices its way through. Hellebron and that Cauldron of Blood taking down yet another Engine of the Gods. Murder Party popped, and her stats are brutal atop that thing. Certainly gonna be too much for one of those dinos, but Tehenhauin is still alive, and all of these Salamanders are still around as well. But they've seen better days. Ancient Salamander and Umbral Tide have been beaten up as the Pteranodon Riders and the Ripperdactyls get into the cookie jar once more, and they live up to their name every single time they make it into an infantry formation. A lot of the Pteranodons are actually fear routing, but I think they should probably be able to come back. More of these Horned ones have gotten around into the Dark Shards, and the clever girls will feast on more of these crossbows, just tossing them high into the sky. With the support from those Ripperdactyls, it looks like the entire back line of the Dark Elves will get shut down here. There is enough mobility from Tlaqua and all these armor-piercing troops to quickly swoop in and destroy all this stuff, but the Blades of the Blood Queen are there. They're pretty scary. Yes, they're anti-infantry. Yes, they don't really want to be fighting Ripperdactyls, especially not when they're backed up by the beautiful charges from Horned ones. But Blades of the Blood Queen are quite tanky for an Executioner unit. They might be able to hold on here if they get a little bit more support, but honestly, doesn't look like any of that will be forthcoming. Witch Elves are too far away. Horned ones charging right into their midst, bowling them over, and will immediately rampage. No cold-blooded going their way as of yet. Dread Spears backing them up, and that might have been a mistake. Quickly trying to take out the Witch Elves while they were isolated, but Dread Spears are coming in to support them. Sisters of Slaughter, my god, painting the town red with their blood, and the entire formation just sliced apart in only a handful of seconds from that Ripperdactyl charge. They're very, very good at killing infantry, and they are very fun to watch. Super awesome. Dark Elf backline was there a minute ago. Now the entire formation is disappeared, but the Black Guard and the 2 Charybdis and that Crone Hellebron on that Cauldron of Blood are on the hunt, and they're looking very strong in this pocket over on the Dark Elves' left flank. Hellebron is just having a whale of a time. Just an enjoyable afternoon here. More sacrifices to the Blood God Cain, not Corn, and we've got Tehenhauin trying to escape from that very precarious position. Black Guard trying to chase after him. Doomfire Warlocks on top of the Chameleon Skinks, and things are definitely starting to shift in the Dark Elves' favor. The Manticore is still around. The Dark Elf Sorceress and Morathi are still around. And even though there are just piles of Druchii bodies, corpses littering the battlefield, the monsters are still alive. And that is a huge threat to what remains of Tlaqua and the Flyers, because they cannot take on Charybdis and Morathi if they're working together in unison. And Sulafet, pretty smart and very fast, realizes, I don't want to be anywhere near that Ripperdactyl Goon Squad. I'm going to hightail it the other way. Charybdis and Hellebron managed to snipe out Tehenhauin. The Prophet of Sotek is down. The Engine of the Gods is down. And all that remains for the Lizardmen are the Flyers, who will surround that Manticore, rip it to shreds. But guess what? That's a Soul Stealer. And talk about value, that will hit every single Flyer on the Lizardmen side of the battlefield. And that will be just enough to tip that army losses bar too far. Mass rout for the Lizards. Dark Elves didn't have a whole lot left to Charybdis and Morathi and Hellebron on life support, but it was enough to win them the day, and still a relatively convincing win for the Druchii here. Big mistakes on both sides. It happens in these kind of situations in a 3v3, especially when you're not controlling your entire army. You're controlling wings on multiple sides. Mazdamundi going down early, big blow to the Lizardmen. Malekith got sniped out by the Ripperdactyls and TikTaq'To. Horned Ones really did have a field day. They were amazing that game. I didn't give them any chevrons whatsoever. They each earned 2 of them themselves. 184, 127 kills, and that's with killing Dread Knights, Cold One Knights, and a bunch of Dart Shards. That is a ton of value generated from them. The Pterodon Riders and the Ripperdactyls were very good. Colossadon Hunters only got 12 kills, but did the majority of the damage to Malekith. TikTaq'To was pretty disappointing, I'll say that. Tehenhauin was not. Over 100 kills there, consigning entire worlds to the oblivion of Exterminatus with those orbital bombardments. And the Salamanders were solid. Red Crescent Kings did what they needed to. They meat shielded. They weren't going to get a massive amount of kills anyway. Ark of Sotek earned a chevron. Not too bad, but the Bolt Throwers really did rack up a tremendous amount of damage against all those dinos. And honestly, the biggest mistake of that battle was we let the Lizardmen infantry get too far ahead before the Ripperdactyls, before the Flyers, before the Cav could be in a position to really capitalize on their focus being in the front. So the timing wasn't quite there, the communication wasn't quite there, and it meant that Mazdamundi and Zlak got thrown to the wolves, where Hellebron, Executioners, and especially those Dart Shards could feast. And killing out, I mean, just sniping out 2 Engine of the Gods relatively early on in that game, sniping out Zlak as well, that's a huge problem if you are the Lizards. Managed to claw it back there. Knights of the Ebon Claw, Cold One Knights, and that entire cavalry wing got shut down incredibly quickly. Horned Ones were truly amazing that game and probably the MVPs, but at the end of the day, the Dark Elves had a united front. They used their teamwork incredibly well, they communicated well, and they made sure to focus down the right targets at the start, and from there, Lizards were on the back foot. Another really fun SUBCOMMANDERS game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. See you next time. Indie Pride, signing out for now.